is really amazing to be here. I have a true confession to make. I was once in high school, and I used to roll my eyes whenever I had a public speaker come and just lecture to me. So it's payback time. I'm now that public speaker. So if you want about karma, this is it. So I want to first say thank you to all of you, Principal Mulberry, to Megan Noonan, Steph and Leah, to everyone at the C Committee for making this possible. So happiest professor, who gets to be that, right? So I have a story to share with you that really begins to help you understand why I think that the new 3 hours of education really are what I want to share with you today. But what I want to do first is to embarrass myself and show you, this is me. Senior year picture of high school. You know, and we all, let's face it, raise your hand if you think high school is a really awkward, weird, funky period of your life. Yeah, dude, right? Come on, it is. I know. You know, and how many of you feel that high school can be pressured, there's stress, there's anxiety? Raise your hand if you feel that to be the case. Yeah, same here as well. I was once in high school, your principal was once in high school, your parents were once in high school. And I have a confession to make as well. I was driven. I had 4.5 GPA, president of the National Honor Society, went to a top 10 university, got the perfect resume, grad school, you know, at Ivy League school. But all of that miserably failed to help me overcome the biggest trauma of my life. At the age of my mid-20s, my mother died from suicide. And so you don't get trained for that. You don't learn how to cope with the death of a mother from suicide in high school. And so all the things that you learn here, getting a good GPA, you know, getting a good job, getting into a good college, all of that really can't equip you to facing the challenges that life presents you. So what I want to do for you today is help you understand the 3 R's of education, which really are readiness, resilience, and reflection. These 3 new R's, I want to help you understand what they are, give you some brain science behind this, and help you understand how you can begin to implement this into your life, why it matters. Our 20th century learning paradigm fails you to thrive in a 21st century world. When I was in school, high school, and your principal and everyone else, we didn't have this opportunity that you have here with the C learning, the social, emotional, ethical learning. If I had that in high school, I would have been better equipped to handle the trauma that happened to me in my 20s. I experienced depression, anxiety, all the things you can think about that happened to me after that experience. But what I want to share with you is that you might be aware of this. How many of you feel that there is a really powerful drive to be perfect at everything? Raise your hand if you feel that's to be the case. Yeah, got to get a good GPA, got to be the best in sports, got to be the best at everything. That leads to pressured perfectionism, this idea that 60% of teens report getting good grades is more stressful than looks and social appearances. Next slide. Why does this matter? Here's the brain science behind all of this. I study the brain. I study how brain affects our behavior. We're finding in the brain science research, the critical decade of 15 to 25 is the crucial period of your life to help you instill the tools for resilience, for readiness, and reflection. The brain is still developing. Your brain, believe it or not, is still developing all the way up to the age of 25. And so when you cultivate these tools to help you thrive, this is something that begins to become wired into your brain. And so what I want to share with you today are the 3 falsehoods that sabotage your success, but also reveal to you the 3 tactics that can help you succeed in life. Falsehood number 1, failure is not an option. This is the biggest myth that you have been told. The fear of failure, not being perfect, this is what drives most of you to feel that sense of anxiety, that sense of angst, and it can lead to long-term effects such as depression and long-term mental and behavioral issues. Truth number 1, It's okay not to be okay. I want you all to understand this. The whole shut up and suck it up attitude is the biggest hurdle we have to overcome to become more prepared for life. We need to remove the shame and the stigma around mental health issues. We need to remove or give you permission to be imperfect. Here's a secret. Life is messy. Life is chaotic. There is no such thing as the linear path to happiness. It happens on your own way. As I like to say, happiness is not a destination, it is a direction. And you have to understand there are tools you can implement starting today, in here during your high school period, that the C Learning begins to offer to you that can help you thrive in life. And so ultimately, I want you, your principal, and everyone here wants you to be able to face all the challenges in life without fear or without judgment. So the first R I want to share with you is readiness. This is what I study. I study how contemplative practices such as meditation, gratitude, expressing optimism affect your brain and ultimately affect your learning and your outlook on life. The C Learning, which you have here, the social, emotional, ethical learning, allows this to take place. Let me share with you one aspect of brain science that validates why this is true. This is a concept called neuroplasticity. What does that mean, neuroplasticity? Your brain is not fixed. This is something we've discovered in the past 15 years, 20 years. We always thought the brain was fixed, that you couldn't change itself. But the brain can actually change itself. Your brain, if you are stuck having a negative thought, or if you feel like you're in a rut, you can change that. They're now showing that by practice, whether it's learning how to play the piano, learning how to play lacrosse, or learning how to thrive in life, this is something you can wire into your brain. If you play sports or if you play a musical instrument, it is secondhand for you. You don't have to think about where do I place my hand on the violin? Where do I hold the lacrosse stick? It's instinctual. This is what neuroplasticity does. It allows your brain to be trained to be focused on the positive and to focus and to be wired for you to thrive later in life. Falsehood number 2. Setbacks and adversity are avoidable and negative. You can never predict what's going to happen in life. Like I could never predict in high school what was going to happen to me with my mother. You all know about your car's suspension system. Your car's suspension system and your shock absorbers, this is what allows your car to not be jarred or to feel like when it goes over a pothole or a bump in the road, it doesn't feel like the whole car is going to fall apart. This is exactly what we need to instill in you. Next slide, please. Truth number 2, adversity and strife can build character. Let me share with you something. How many of you have broken a bone? Okay. How many of you here have got the flu? Okay. Guess what? When you break a bone, your bone becomes stronger. When you get the flu, you build a resistance to that virus down the road. This is the same thing that happens on an emotional, psychological level. When you experience adversity, it actually builds an immunity. Your brain actually remembers this and says, oh, guess what? I can now overcome this. But there's something I want to share with you, which every one of you has, including myself, every human has, that makes it more of an effort to experience this sense of positivity and thriving. Unfortunately, I have some bad news about this. Your brain is actually wired for anxiety and stress. This is what nature wants. Evolution wired your brain to be more prone to negativity, to anxiety. Why would that be the case? It's something called negativity bias. Here's a nice way of thinking about it. Your brain is like Velcro for negative experiences. Your brain is like Teflon for positive experiences. Negative experiences stick more strongly in your brain, and they had to, because that is what got us humans to survive. Imagine yourself 10,000 years ago. I ate that poison berry. I almost died from that. I got to remember that. The guy with a club who's going to looks pretty menacing. I got to remember, don't be friends with that guy. So this is what your brain does. You are more wired for negativity than for positivity. But there's good news. Brain science research is now showing it takes at least 5 empowering thoughts to outweigh 1 negative one. As we say, happiness is not a promise, it is a practice. You have to practice on this. And so one way you can do this, what I do, is I wake up and think of at least one thing that I'm grateful for. It could be my family, it could be my dog, it could be my children, it could be, for you, it could be I've got a loving family, I've got food on the table. Even these little things, they build up. So it takes at least 5 positive thoughts to outweigh that negative one. So the second R, resilience. This is really key. Cognitive reframing, this idea of being able to reframe a experience. So let's say, for example, you get that B- on your algebra test. You don't make the swim team. The girl you want to ask to prom says no. It's not the end of the world, trust me. It is not. And so when you begin to reframe, this is just a temporary situation. This is not my entire life. You are not defined by your dramas. That's how I like to think about it. You are not defined by your dramas. You actually have the ability to shift your thoughts. This builds resilience. In the same way, when you break a bone, you get the flu, you now have a resilience against that disease or the flu or anything that comes down the road. Falsehood number 3, it ain't all about you. In high school, or being a high school student, being a teenager, it can be very, we might be duped into thinking the universe revolves around me, but it really doesn't. There's one thing that we're discovering: there is no you without community and relationships. We need to recognize the interconnectedness of us all. And this is something that brain science research is also affirming. We're now beginning to discover a remarkable aspect about the human brain. We've always thought the human brain was a rational organ, a cognitive thinking organ, but something has changed the way we study the brain and how our brain functions. Your brain, my brain, everyone's brain in this room evolved as a social organ for community, for belonging, for connection, and tribe. To socialize is to survive, to tribe is to thrive. Let me give you a small example. Imagine yourself 10,000 years ago at the age of our Stone Age caveman ancestors. You're all alone. It's cold, you're tired, you're hungry, you've got the weather's getting, it's getting dark outside, and to make it worse, you hear the sound of hungry predators in the distance. Pretty scary situation, right? This is what life was like for our ancient ancestors. We needed to just make it one more day. Raise your hand if you think, if you had one other able-bodied person that you trusted with you, raise your hand if you think your chances for survival would increase. Raise your hand if you think it's the case. Yes. Imagine if you had 5 other people. 10, 50. You now have the understanding of why the brain evolved as a social organ. Think about it this way. Humans are not the fastest animal. We're not the strongest. We can't breathe underwater. We can't fly. But there's one powerful feature that humans excelled at that made us the top species on the planet. And that was our ability for complex social connections, complex social bonding, if you will. We learned how to do this. Any functional strategy that enhances survival gets passed on into the genes of the next generation. It's the reason why opposable thumbs, walking upright, having vocal cords became advantageous for human survival. The same thing is true about the social brain. Why is this important? Is that we need to reflect on how we are connected to others in our life. The sense of reflection, the sense of idea that when we begin to understand how we have an impact on the world, how we begin to actually shift our sense from the me to the we, this is a very powerful way we can begin to experience this sense of thriving and find that sense of resilience and the readiness and the success we need in our life. Why is this so important? I'm finding that this is a very important message to get out to students at your age. I teach at the university, as you all know. And what I find is that if we can get to you at this early stage and cultivate with you the tools that you're learning, that you have here at the high school with the C learning, the social, emotional, ethical learning, this now builds the foundation for you to experience a life of thriving, for you to be ready, for you to be resilient, and for you to be reflective in life, the new 3 years of education. As I like to say, happy brains make happy people make a happy world. It all starts with you. And so the last thing I'd like to say to you before I open up to any questions you might have, never be afraid to let your light and happiness shine forth fully and brightly, because the world would be a much dimmer place without you in it. Thank you. Your happiness homework. I want to make 2020 the year of happiness. And so I'd like to give you some fun homework to do. I want all of you to know that every single one of you has the ability to create happiness in your life and in the world. It doesn't matter, what little thing you do, what little acts you do. They build up and they actually have a ripple effect. Here's one example I'll share with you. If you do a kind act to someone else, the person who was the recipient of that kind act has a 60% chance of doing a kind act to someone else in the next hour. Isn't that cool? So even if you see someone open the door for someone else, or do something little, just something simple as like picking up a piece of trash. Where I live in Southern California, I do ocean swims. And one thing I do whenever I go to the ocean, to the beach, is I pick up 3 pieces of trash. It's a very minor, small thing, but if one person sees me doing that, that person will likely have a 60% chance of doing something similar in the next hour. So here's what I want us to do. Would you like to do this? I want to see if you can post and share on Instagram a photo, a story of you doing something that brings happiness into your life or into the world. And let's see if we can maybe start doing this today. I'm going to challenge you as your happiness homework for every one of you here in this auditorium to post or to share a photo or a story of something that brings you happiness. Can you do that today? Yes. Okay. Hashtag your year of happiness. You're welcome to tag me as well. And with that, I think this might be time. So again, thank you so much. You guys are awesome.